Hey everyone. So today we'll be going over some stretches that you can use in order to stretch out your hip flexors, your psoas major muscles. Yesterday I was practicing what's called slot pressing, which is where you practice holding a deep squat while pressing a kettlebell over your head. And while it's going to help me build some strength and flexibility, it's also tightening up my hip flexors. So today I feel it. I just feel tightness in my hip region. So your hip flexors, they start at the bottom of your spine, and then they run through your pelvis, and they attach to your upper leg bone. And a lot of times, if they feel tight, you don't necessarily feel just tightness in your hips, but you feel tightness in your lower back because the shortened hip flexor is pulling on your spine. So this is good to do if you ever feel tightness after, like a good lift where you're squatting or deadlifting or lunging, or if you've just been sitting at a desk all day and your hip flexors have been shortened. All right, but just follow me, and all you need is a yoga mat, okay? You don't need too much. So to get started, you're just gonna put your hand on the wall, and we're gonna stretch out the quadricep. So you make sure that the knee is aligned with the other knee. And then all you're gonna do is just gently pulse your heel to your butt. I'm gonna pulse mine about 10 times. And then I'll switch. Try to make sure that the knee that you're pulling on isn't out in front. We want it lined up with the other one. I'm going to do each side 2 times. And then on top of keeping the knees aligned, look to keep your ribs drawn in so that they're not splaying like they would if I look like so. Nine and 10. We're going to do the same exact thing now, except on the floor. And it's the way we're going to be setting ourselves up will allow just a little bit more of a stretch in the psoas muscle in the front body compared to what we just did. So you're going to set yourself up on a forearm. We'll set yourself up on the left forearm so the left elbow is right underneath your left shoulder. From there, bring your legs together, and then we're going to keep your navel drawn towards your spine, and you're going to bend your right leg. And I want you to reach back. You're going to keep your chest lifted, and then just start to gently pulse your heel to your butt. We're going to go with about 6, 8 times. Switch it up. Keep that navel drawn in. And the knees are going to want to splay apart from one another, especially the one that you're pulling on. It's going to jolt out to the side, so do your best to keep your knees drawn somewhat together. I'm also going to do 2 rounds here. Instead of grabbing on the outside for the second round, I'm going to flip my hand and pull it with this part of my hand, this little U shape between my thumb and my index finger. I'm going to put that right on the top of my foot. Reason being is that it takes a little less effort to draw my heel towards my butt because there's already so much resistance and effort when you set your hand up like this. It's a little tough. So if you can't do it, go back to the first side where the hand was just on the outside of the foot. Switch things up. So that helps warm up the hip flexor by stretching out the muscles of the knees. Now, we're going to stretch out the muscles of the spine. So we started from underneath the hip flexor. Now we're going to work on top, and then ultimately we'll do a variation of a lunge in order to really stretch out the hip flexor. So give this a shot. Put your pelvis up against the wall. And tuck your toes underneath. You're going to keep your pelvis pressed up against the wall, and you're going to start to look up, lifting your chest with you as you go. Now you're going to take the area right in your mid-back, right on your spine, and draw it into your body. That's going to help you lift even further. You're going to keep all that, and then you're going to reach back and hopefully find your heels without letting your hips leave the wall. I'm going to hold this here for about 15 to 20 seconds. Breathing evenly through my nose and out through my nose as well. If you find that it's pretty stressful, you can breathe out through the mouth. We're going to do 2 repetitions here. So inhale to lift up. And then in between, I'm going to have you sit between your heels. Now, if this is too much, I recommend putting something underneath your butt. If you feel it's too much in your knees, or if your ankles aren't used to the stress yet, you can sit on something. Maybe a yoga brick would be ideal. Now we're going to do it one more time. So refine the wall again with your pelvis. Tuck the toes. Start to lift your chest up towards the ceiling. Look up. Then we're going to find the other foot first. So this time I'm trying to find my left heel. Then the right. And look up. Softer breaths are better breaths here. You want to be able to remain calm in a lot of these poses. Take an inhale to lift up out of it. And then lower on down. Collect yourself here. Now this stuff isn't just good for your hip flexors. That last pose, which is called Ustrasana in yoga, is a variation of a back bend. And as we get older, our chests begin to collapse. Gravity takes its toll on us, our shoulders round forward, and our upper backs start to develop what's called a kyphotic curve. What these poses end up doing for us is help us open up our front body, which therefore helps us remain upright in everyday life. So it's super helpful to do. We're going to do one more stretch for the hip flexor. This will be the final. This is what we've been working towards. Now we've warmed up the knee joints and the joints of the spine. You're going to take your one knee. We'll go with the left knee first. And if you're flexible, you're going to put it into the corner between any wall and the floor. If you're not as flexible, we'll still start with the foot up against the wall, but take your knee and move it away. Maybe about a foot or so. The other leg is going to form a 90-degree angle once you've gotten yourself upright. If this is a lot on your knee that's on the floor, double up your mat by just folding it in half. When the knee is up against when it's up against the door, it's going to be a little bit more of an intense stretch. That's what I'm going to work on. And all I'm going to do here is put my hands on my hips and lift up with my chest. From here, I'm going to draw my ribs in, pull my abs in as well, and then I'm going to start to just draw my pelvis forward and then move it up and back. And I'm just going to do this 6, perhaps 8 times. I'm going to go with one more. Then I'm going to hold here and do my best to square myself off. I know that I'm pretty square if my heel is relatively close to my sit bone, which is my butt bone. Then I'm going to switch. So if you're up against the wall, find your heel and your butt bone. Make that the first priority. And then we can start to work towards getting a 90-degree angle in this front leg. Once I'm set up, I'm going to spread my shoulders, lift upright, and then it's time to lunge forward. Continue to keep the abs gently drawn in. Make sure that you are closing your ribs. Stay up at the top. And come on out. So, those three, we have the standing, then the laying, and then we have the lunge. Hit those 3 up and work on it, because those are the beginning stages of a very, very good back bending practice. They're essentially warm-up exercises to getting into some of the more demanding yoga poses, such as the wheel, where you're on your back and you lift your whole body up in the air. Some of those exercises can't really be done unless those muscles are warmed up to begin with. All right, let me know if this helped you. Share this with people that you know it could help. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.